Greetings, I'm Scott Butcher, and today I'm going to talk to you about 12 ground rules for better strategic meetings. We all love meetings, don't we? Or is that we all dread meetings like the plague? The reality is, meetings are a part of everyday life, but we have a bad taste in our mouths because we've been in too many meetings. Meetings that have sucked up time but resulted in nothing. Meetings are too long. You go to a 60-minute meeting and really you only have 10 minutes of productivity, or you have no productivity. You go to meetings and people aren't paying attention, or the topic is this and it makes a right turn and it never makes it back onto topic. These are our weekly staffing meetings, our sales meetings, our operations meetings. We have too many meetings. So then it comes time for very thoughtful, creative, strategic meetings. And we go into it with a bad mindset because we've been in too many bad meetings. Well, we need to change our mindset. And one of the ways to do it is through having ground rules. Now, I'm going to share 12 ground rules with you, but these aren't my ideas. I'm not reinventing the wheel here. There are so many ideas out there for ground rules. These are the 12 that I share if I'm facilitating a strategic meeting. I found them to be very effective, got very positive responses from the groups that I've been with sharing these, and today I'm going to share them with you. So let's jump right in. Ground rule number 1, a mental presence is required. If you're invited to a meeting, you are there for a reason. You need to give that meeting your 100% focus. That means you're not on this. You're not texting. You're not emailing. You're not showing up with a pile of work and sitting there and going through it. That's very disrespectful to everybody else that's participating in the meeting. It sends the wrong message. And if it's allowed to happen, then the message is to everybody else, this meeting isn't important. And it's a disservice to the company that's investing a lot of time and money in putting together this meeting. You go to a meeting, you just look around at the potential billable hours and you think, hey, these meetings cost a lot of money, particularly if they're 2 hours, a half day, a full day, multiple days. So mental presence is required. Number 2, everyone has a voice. Once again, you are there for a reason. So one of the things we need to do is we need to leave the corporate hierarchy at the door to the meeting room, because you'll have people there who are also there with their boss. And they might not speak up. They might be afraid that they'll overstep their bounds, that they'll anger their boss, that they'll make their boss look bad. The reality is everybody has a role to play. They have their own unique skill set, their own unique training and experience. So all of us in these meetings need to feel comfortable speaking up. Number 3, there are no bad ideas or stupid questions. And you're saying, well, of course there are bad ideas and stupid questions. But one of the best ways to really get creativity flourishing is you start off with a question like this. What is the worst possible way we could solve this problem? If you can understand the worst way to do it, that helps free the creativity shackles to come up with the best possible solutions. So understand there are no bad ideas. There are no stupid questions. Yes, once upon a time, somebody walked into a conference room and said, what if we put humans on the moon? Another time, somebody said, what if we took this little device and we created a portable computer that was a telephone and a music player like a Sony Walkman and a camera, and it was all one, and we took it with us everywhere we went? Crazy ideas, right? Not so crazy. They became reality. So sometimes to get to the best solutions to the issues that we're addressing, we have to go out there and be a little crazy, be a little creative with our approaches, because that's going to lead us to the right answer. Number 4, avoid but and replace it with yes and. We all know that but is like this verbal brick wall. We have these ideas, and suddenly they clash. As soon as we're talking, we have the floor, we're sharing an idea, we think we're in a safe environment, we know there's no bad ideas or stupid questions, and suddenly somebody says, yeah, but, often followed by, that'll never work, but I don't think that's the way we should go. Immediately, it shuts down the person that's talking, it shuts off creativity, it can be very interruptive to someone's thoughts. So try to be more positive, listen, hear out the idea, and say, yes. And what if we look at it this way? Or have you ever considered this? Cool idea. What if Keep it positive because it's okay to have a differing opinion. We just don't want to shut it down with that but verbal brick wall. Number 5, you want to attack ideas, not people. Have you ever been in that meeting where it seemed like the conversation was veering dangerously close to being about you? Maybe not by name? So imagine a strategic planning session where somebody says, clearly we don't have the right people doing business development. Well, if you're the director of business development and you're sitting in that meeting, it sounds like a personal attack, doesn't it? So we want to avoid that. That might not even be what the person meant. So what if it was rephrased to something like, clearly we don't have enough people active in business development to meet our goals for next year. Then it's about the problem and it's not coming across as being about a person. So attack the issues, not the person. All right, item number 6, active listening is required. Now you know what active listening is, and you know when you've seen people who aren't listening actively. If you're in the middle of a conversation and you're thinking about what you're going to say in response, you're not listening actively. Active listening requires work. It requires us to literally hang on every word that is being spoken by the other person, to reserve our thoughts of how we're going to respond to it until it's our turn. So active listening really requires a lot of work, and it's also 100% necessary in meetings, particularly strategic meetings. Next is ground rule 7. Mutual respect will promote creativity. We want a safe environment where everybody feels like they're respected by everybody else around the table. Then you're more comfortable sharing crazy ideas or sharing lessons learned or even failures that you've had in the past and lessons that you've learned from it. But if somebody is not being respectful of you or of somebody else in the meeting, get them out of there. Because in these types of meetings, we need positive energy. We need mutual respect. And as soon as somebody becomes the cog in that wheel, it derails the entire meeting. Mutual respect, absolute key. Item number 8, it's okay to disagree. In fact, please disagree. We don't want a room full of yes men. We're not going to accomplish anything if we're all 100% aligned during these discussions. We want opposing ideas, contrarian opinions. We want to keep it positive because the reality is some of the best solutions that have ever been created, some of the most unique products ever invented, came from having these opposing ideas that suddenly collaborated into something so much better. So yes, disagree, but do so respectfully and come up with a better solution on the back end of it. Ground rule number 9. It is not okay to not speak up. Double negative intended. Once again, you were invited to that meeting for a purpose. So was everybody else. So if somebody is sitting there and they have the brilliant idea or they disagree with where the decisions are moving toward, they need to speak up. Because if they don't, they're doing a disservice to every single person participating in that meeting and the company. And the reality is, if you don't speak up during that opportunity where you have a chance to speak up, after the meeting, you've lost your right to speak up. You've lost your right to disagree. Because you had the opportunity, you walked away from it. Ground rule number 10, off-topic comments will be parked. The parking lot. Love it, hate it, it is a valid concept in strategic meetings. When you're at a meeting, any meeting really, there's this area of focus, there's all these other places that the conversation could go. We need to make sure we're focused here. So when somebody goes off topic, which will happen, we need to recognize and acknowledge the concern they shared, the idea they shared. We need to capture it. We can do it on a whiteboard or a large tablet. We can do it on our phone with a note. But we need to capture it and then get back to the item at hand. Now, we also need to make sure somebody circles back around after the meeting to address whatever the concern or issue that was addressed. So we want to park those off-topic comments. Number 11, the weeds should be avoided. You know how easy it is to plummet into the weeds. You're having a conversation at 50,000 feet. It's going great. Maybe you're dropping down to 20 or 10,000 feet because, hey, we can dream big, but we have to start to make things a reality. And when we're doing that, we have to drop to 20,000 or 15,000 feet. We have to start the beginnings of a framework for our solution or a plan. But we're not getting tactical. We're not going down to 5 or 10 feet. There are some people that thrive at 50,000 feet, and there are some people that thrive at 5 feet. Guess what? Those people that thrive in the details, in the tactics, they probably shouldn't even be invited to the strategic meeting. Their value lies in the implementation phase that follows whatever the strategic meeting, the ideas, the concept, the agreed upon steps to take. We need somebody to implement it. That's where those 5 feet people belong. And ground rule number 12. At the end of the day, unity is critical. We all must be aligned. We must present a united front, because you know what happens. There's the meeting after the meeting. Somebody sits there, they don't speak up, violating other ground rules. They walk out the door and they say, that'll never work. That destroys everything that you've accomplished in that strategic meeting, that strategic retreat. That can't be allowed. We must all commit to one another in these meetings that we are going to abide by the agreed upon decisions. And we've all been there. We've been at a place where we didn't agree with the final decision that the majority thought was appropriate. But guess what? Ideally, we've voiced our concerns in a positive way, and still were voted against. It's our responsibility then to help implement whatever was decided upon. We have to agree to it. We can't be that voice of disruption that occurs after the meeting. So those are my 12 ground rules. Now, you've heard of a baker's dozen. You go to the donut shop, you order a dozen donuts, and you get 13. So right now I have the butcher's dozen. And the butcher's dozen is, I'm going to give you a bonus 13th ground rule, but this one is specifically for the highest ranking attendees within that meeting. And the rule is simply this: don't pull out your executive card. That is the worst thing you can do in these meetings, particularly if you're trying to have a lot of creativity and strategic thinking. I was in a strategic planning session, and there was a lot of creativity happening with the brainstorming. Some of the company's concerns were being addressed and potential solutions were being batted about. And for whatever reason, the highest ranking staff member in that meeting was not comfortable with it. And he was taking it personally, even though it was not directed at his leadership whatsoever. And he did that nonverbal stop sign, shut down the conversation, and he said, how about this? I'm the president. What I say goes. End of story. Well, that was the end of the story, because everybody shut down. All that positive energy and engagement that happened before that stop sign dissipated. Nobody felt comfortable speaking up afterwards. They had been shut down. They had hit that brick wall, and they were done. They were counting the minutes until the session was over. So if you're the highest ranking person in that meeting, whatever your role is in the company or the institution, don't be that person that pulls the executive card and says, no, I'm in charge and I don't agree. Now, absolutely, we need a reality check from time to time. We may need some nudges, and the highest ranking person might need to nudge because there's schedule issues, there's budget issues, there's quality issues, there's personnel issues, there's operations issues. We want to make sure these agreed upon solutions ultimately are achievable. We have to address that, but it's much better when it happens organically. People come up with some crazy, great, neat ideas, but they're not realistic. So they start to filter by cost, by personnel, by schedule. Let them come up with the solutions. Let them do a self-reality check, because it's going to help you identify your leaders. Who should be leading the charge on this? Who are your next leaders for your company? When it happens organically, it's so much more meaningful. So there you have it, my 12 or 13 ground rules for better strategic meetings. Use them. They work. Make it cultural at your firm, because yes, I keep saying these are great for strategic thinking, but guess what? Most of these ground rules apply for any meeting. So if you can get your other meetings using these ground rules, they'll be so much better, and that feeling of dread that you have will dissipate. You'll get excited to go to your meetings. So I hope this has been beneficial for you. I'm Scott Butcher. I help architecture, engineering, construction, and environmental firms improve their marketing and business development acumen through consulting, training, and facilitation. Hope this has been worthwhile for your time, and I thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.